rusty. It was terrible. And so I got 20 feet outside the door. And it had just been a blizzard, and I thought that I was walking on snow. And it turns out that I was walking on ice. And my left leg went that way, and my right leg went that way, and I heard a snap. Uh-oh, yeah. That's what I said. So I just sort of exploded all over the ground. And I sit there for a second in the snow, sort of in this position here, and I say to myself, I have to go take this math test. I'm going to do it. So I stood up on a broken leg, and I took 3 more steps towards school. At which point I realized that I was in excruciating pain. I crawled back into the house, climbed into my parents' bedroom, because they were on the first floor, and I said a rosary in 45 seconds flat. I called my mom and I said, hey, I think my leg's broken. And she said, are you sure? And I said, absolutely. My leg was about that big around at that point. So she came and got me. And I had a thigh-high cast up to the middle of my leg for the next 6 weeks of my junior year of high school. And it was terrible because it was January and there was snow and ice everywhere. But Josh Wagner was not a dumb guy. I used this as an opportunity to meet women. So there was this particularly cute girl in class, and let's call her Hannah. Let's call her Hannah, because Hannah is a popular name these days. And so I said, Hannah, I'm on these crutches. Would you mind carrying my books? And she said, she took sympathy on me, exactly what I was going for there. Sympathy dates are still dates. Anyway, I ended up taking her out on a date, and we saw Billy Madison. I will never forget it. Billy Madison's what we saw. And so we sat there, and I really liked her, and eventually I asked her to the junior prom, excuse me. I was just enamored. It was the end. I had found my calling. I was just enamored with this young woman. I thought she was the bee's knees, best thing since sliced bread. And so we went to the prom. She agreed to go with me to the prom. And this is the defining moment. We spent so much money trying to impress our dates, my friends and I. We had tuxedos with tails, and we had the bow ties going. We had sticks and top hats. All we needed was a little monocle, and we would have been Mr. Peanut. It was great. And so I'm waiting for the limo to arrive. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to make this a special night. So I decided that this was going to be the first night that I would shave. Now, you think I'm young looking now. You should have seen me when I was a junior in high school. I haven't shaved in 3 days this week. There's absolutely no reason for me to shave. And so I'm shaving. I don't know what I'm doing. I got one of my dad's razors, and I'm waiting on the limo to arrive, and I'm nervous, and I'm excited about going out to dinner with this girl and my 3 friends and their dates in the limo, and we had this whole thing planned. We made a video for the night, and I'm sitting there going like this, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I end up cutting myself right here. Now, the men in the room are going, but Father, you don't shave up there. I know. And let me tell you, it bleeds like crazy when you do that. So I'm bleeding like crazy, and the chauffeur comes up to the door, and he says, man, what happened to you? And I said, this is my first time shaving, and he says, you don't shave up there. I said, I got it, it's fine. And so we went over to my friend's house to pick him up. The limo just came and got me, and we went over to my friend's house. And he said, Josh, what did you do to yourself? And I said, I cut myself shaving. And of course he says, you don't shave up there. He says, I know what I'm going to do. He says, I'll be right back. And he goes into his house, and he grabs a bottle of green rubbing alcohol. I know what childbirth is like. Because I imagine I had as much pain that day. I put the green rubbing alcohol on my face, and there was just that half a second pause, like in Home Alone. Do you remember that show? When he puts the aftershave on his face, and after just a second, there was this one moment where I put the gauze on my face with the rubbing alcohol, and I looked at him, and I go, and it was just, I've never felt pain like that in all my life. I understand what it is to carry the cross now because of that. Let me tell you what green rubbing alcohol does to an open wound. First of all, it stings. Second of all, it makes it bleed twice as fast because it dilutes the blood. So by the time we get there to her house to pick her up, things aren't going so well. And I come to find out that she had another guy on the side that she wanted to see and she was seeing and stuff like that. So we went to the most expensive restaurant in town. Things were already kind of going badly. And she ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. And she took one bite. And she pushed the plate away. I had 2 dinners that night. It was fabulous. That started my tradition, by the way, of eating 2 dinners, which is a great tradition to have every night. That's how I gained from 135 pounds in Italy. And so the rest of the night happened. We were supposed to go bowling, and I had to hold her pager because she didn't have a room in the dress she was wearing. And at 2 in the morning, she gets paged out, and I have to take her home. And there I am, all by myself. And my 3 friends had their 3 dates, and I'm just sitting there going like this. And that was the night I decided to become a priest. The counselor says 3 more sessions and I will be totally over it. So, it'll be just fine. That is not the night I decided to become a priest. In fact, I knew that I was going to become a priest at that point because in my sophomore year of high school, we moved from Texas. I used to live in Texas, which, if anybody's ever been to Texas in here, you understand that it's a foreign land. They talk funny. They wear different clothes. They have a different culture. I mean, I don't know how big you can get your hair, but I have seen some amazing things. And when we moved back from my sophomore year of high school, we moved from Texas to Westerville, and I went to Westerville North High School. I'm a public school kid. And one night, I'd been thinking about the priesthood for several months at this point, and I couldn't sleep, and it was 3 in the morning. And this is a true story, by the way. So was the last one, but I didn't decide to become a priest that night. And I was laying in bed, and I couldn't stop thinking about the priesthood. Sophomore in high school, 16 years old, and I said to God, all right, I want to go to sleep. You need to leave me alone. If you want me to be a priest, you have to send me a sign. I went right to sleep. It was fabulous. I don't think I've ever had a slumber quite so beautiful and deep and profound in my whole life. And I woke up the next morning at 6 a.m. and I walked to school carrying the tuba up the hill in the snow. And it was actually November of my sophomore year. And I get home. It was a Tuesday. And I get home. And my mom says, you got something in the mail from the Diocese of Columbus. And I said, you got to be kidding. I walk up to my room, I open up the package, and the first thing that comes out, it says at the top, you are called to be a Catholic priest. I shoved it back in the envelope. I hid it under my bed. Now, a lot of teenagers keep other kinds of things in their beds. I kept materials for the priesthood. So I said, well, maybe this is my sign. I had asked for it the night before. This is a true story. And so what I did is I said to myself, okay, God, I will let me be a normal teenage kid. Let me have a job. Let me date girls and all this stuff, and I will give you 1 year in seminary. That was the deal I struck with God that night. And I told my parents the next day, it was Wednesday of this week, and I said, I need to take you guys out to dinner. When a teenager wants to take his parents out to dinner, that's not always a good sign. They thought maybe I had knocked over a liquor store or they didn't know what to expect. And I took the packet with me, and I said, Mom, Dad, I think God wants me to be a priest. And when my mom woke up, they said that it was perfectly all right. And that was the beginning of that's actually my vocation story. Is I thought about it for months and months, and I needed some kind of sign that I was supposed to be a priest. Do not ask God for signs. He is happy to provide them. Very happy to provide them. So I want to tell you one last story, and this involves this hat. This is my favorite hat ever. Now, I'm not a hat guy. I have too round of a face. I look like a schlub when I wear a hat. This is the only hat that I can actually get away with wearing.